Hey everybody, welcome. I'm really excited to be doing a video with the great and powerful Kisma, who's joining to talk about how to know if you're living upside down, and really what this is all about. I don't know if I told you this, but I binged out on Stranger Things on Netflix. Did I keep this secret?
Stranger Things?
Stranger Things,
I don't
yeah.
know that one.
Anyway, it's a great Netflix show, and one of the things that they talk about is this alternate dimension that they call the upside down. And in the upside down, it's like everything's kind of distorted and it's scary, and it's
like
just
the world.
Yeah, it kind of like that. So it's like living upside down. And it was really good. Do you like horror flicks? Do you like that kind of thing? Not really. I didn't think she'd dig it, so I just went for it, and I guess now we're outing ourselves on that. So anyway, really interesting, but what it made me think about was like how many times in our own lives like we're living essentially upside down. Mm-hmm. And when I look at that like in the context of decision making, right? Mm-hmm. Decision making is super important because
very important.
Because every moment of every day you are faced with the dilemma of choice. You have the opportunity to go this way or that way, to make this choice or that choice, how you spend your time, who you spend your time with,
right.
Like where you direct your effort and attention, all of it comes down to choice. Mm-hmm. And so how you make your decisions in that process becomes really important. And what I've found is that a lot of people do this upside down.
Yikes.
Right?
That's going to hurt.
That's going to hurt.
So what happens?
But it's true. So what happens is it's like it's waiting for this specific set of certain circumstances, or for you to feel a certain way, or for everything to be in its right place before you make a decision.
When you're ready. So
right.
You're waiting to be ready.
Yeah, meditating on it.
And everything to fall into place. Yeah.
And then, then you make the decision to move
right.
forward. Then
right.
it's okay for you to take that step, or maybe it feels a little safer, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And to me, that's totally upside down, because you're just waiting for this magical set of circumstances to feel a certain way mm-hmm. before you take meaningful action towards your highest and best, towards the things that are most important to you, and towards the things that are really going to drive your life forward. So yeah. I thought I'd bring you in with this, because I know you talk about decisions a lot.
Yep.
Especially on your own TV,
mm-hmm.
Your own live feeds, and so I just thought, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, what I have found is many people suffer from what we call decision fatigue, right? So I'm looking here and there. Decision fatigue is like in this unknowing spot, and it is so exhausting and it's so depleting because your mind keeps going back and forth. Like Nick said, we can have this choice: should I do this or should I do that? And before you know it, there's a ton of stories already spinning in one's head as to why they should or should not do something. And so it means that the arrival, I think, of the answer is anything but from your higher self, from your best, and from divine right order. There's all these beliefs and attitudes and worries and fears, and anyone who's making a decision from fear is really setting that whole thing off with like the absolute wrong energy. Even if they decide not to do something because of fear, it means that fear is embedded in their entire situation from that point on, if they don't know how to remove it or clear it.
Wow.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, and that's really interesting that you bring that into it, because that fear-based method of decision making, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what just drives mm-hmm. this upside down process, which
right.
is like, oh, I'm afraid that everything's not going to work out the way that I want, or I'm afraid...
Very unempowering, that
right?
view. Very unempowering.
Or I'm afraid that not only, is it not going to work out, but that whatever happens, like I'm not going to be able to handle it. I'm going to get myself into a really bad situation. Mm-hmm. And so then it causes us to reverse the cycle, which says like, okay, when everything's this certain way, I'll feel good enough to make that decision. That's going to be
like 5 lifetimes from now, people. Just so you know, when everything's feeling okay, you got probably about another dozen or so rounds on this planet. Don't wait.
Yeah.
No.
So one of the I see this show up in a couple different ways. It's like, okay, I'm not going to move forward until everything's a certain way. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I hear a lot is, I need to meditate on that. I'm going to meditate on that. And what that usually means is people are meditating on the problem. They're meditating on
or on the fear, on the worry.
Right.
Yeah.
And hoping to feel a certain way or find some
Right.
peace around the decision.
Right.
And when they wind up putting all this attention on it, what you wind up doing is basically enrolling yourself in the problems, which is enrolling yourself in all the ways that it won't work out or you're not
Exactly.
going to be able to handle it. And so you're meditating on the problem, and that just makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't know. What do you have?
Well, I think too, we talk a lot about, at least with those students that are on here, our most dominant thoughts are like magnets that are just like pulling up these little particles of metal. So if a human meditates on issues that why it might not work or worries or fears, guess what they're attracting more of? Just that. And for me, it's really about having that empowered stance of a human. Like when you make a decision, go for it. Create that reality that you want to see. If you're diving into something because you're worried it's not going to work or whatever, that's no way to dive in. But as well, you're probably going to stay in that worried, stuck state for the rest of your life and lifetime. So it's like, I refer to that whole scene of Moses in the Promised Land. Florence Scovel Shinn brings this up in The Game of Life so beautifully. It's like Moses parts the seas, right? The Red Sea is parted. And he says to the children of Israel, it's time. You got to go. Like the Promised Land is there. And they have this moment of, no. We're going to stay here. Even though we don't like it, we're going to stay here. We know it. But you've got to go. Like everyone, the seas are parting. You've got a Moses. Like you've got your higher self. You've got guides. And you've got a promised land. But the more you dig your heels in and worry and wait till everything's okay, like you're waiting for a cruise ship to get to the promised land, you got to go. You really got to go.
Wow. Kisma going biblical, everybody. Look out.
Love that Bible.
There's a cost to this that I see. Number one is the stress and anxiety of just
Right.
that lack of confidence about what am I going to do, or I'm not going to be able to handle it, or whatever else that stress and anxiety is translating to in your head.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yay, Amanda. Number two is time.
Time.
So you
costly.
waste a ton of time in your decision-making process, right? So it takes way longer to make decisions. It takes way longer to make forward progress.
Right.
And as a result, your whole life is just kind of stuck in the mud.
Exactly.
Right? Number three is it costs energy.
Totally.
Because you're burning all this energy, like Kisma described so beautifully. You're burning all this energy in the decision-making process that's totally unnecessary. And here's one that most people miss, is it costs you money. And I've just seen it time and time and time again,
Right.
where when you have an opportunity and you don't take the opportunity, right? Even though you know it's right for you, and you know it's something that you need to do, when that finally circles around again, it winds up costing, I've seen, a minimum of twice as much and as much as 10 or even 20 times as much.
Yeah, totally. And just, I'll leave you with this, my final words on this. If there's a worry about a decision, if there's a worry about a choice, this means you're not really stepping in and embodying who you are at the very divine core level. You are totally have this alignment that you can access. You can totally choose to step in and make the absolute most. I mean, I know we've made really big decisions in our business and it was like, okay, let's go. There was no looking back. There was no doubt. There couldn't be. And that's who we are when we allow ourselves to be that divine success track, that human. It's like, go, be empowered, drop into state, and just take all the opportunities and let go of the doubt.
Beautifully put. Yeah, and it's important to remember, too, that your intuition, the voice of your higher self, is never, ever going to call you to play smaller and
Never.
to contract.
That's true.
It's just
Yeah.
never going to
Yeah,
do that.
totally.
It's always going to lead you toward greater expansion,
Yeah.
greater power, greater love, greater ability to express yourself in a really beautiful
Yeah.
way. And that's something to remember, because so many times people meditate and it's like, oh, my intuition said this or that. And it's like, well, was it that? Because now you're playing a much smaller game.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, so awesome.
Yeah.
Great video idea. Thanks for being here, guys, on a Friday night. Type in if this was helpful. Yeah, it's sort of like bringing our podcast on Facebook. Maybe we should do this before we record our podcast. We do have a really cool podcast out. We'll put that underneath. We have more coming. Any topics you want to hear, post it in. We might be doing a little like Illumination Podcast Facebook Live every week.
Wow, I never even thought of that. So
we should have thought of it.
Yeah,
it's kind
maybe
of like,
maybe
okay,
we'll
there we
start
go.
doing that.
I mean, it's like, yes, I guess we just made a big decision.
Hey, check out Kisma's videos if you haven't already. I'll post a link below. Check out Wei Huang. He's awesome.
Yeah,
He's
go Wei.
always got great videos. And really the purpose of this is to continue to elevate the conversation here on Facebook. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a little bit of craziness going on, and definitely a little conflict and some stress and tension I noticed in Facebook.
Enough of that.
Enough of that. And so it's time, I think, to elevate the conversation. That's what we're here to do. And Kisma's so awesome at that. So check out her videos. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you.
Can you buy me dinner?
I am going to buy you dinner. It's date night, everybody. We're going to take a little walk and go have a nice little date time.
Much love. Peace out.
Thank you. Peace. Have a really great evening, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.